Hello everyone, welcome to the growth segment. My name is Zhen Yang, an engineer from LTA, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Often when we consider careers, we see a number of people who have already been in a job for a number of years and are able to call themselves professionals. But now, let's take a step back to really consider the process of growing into that role to become a professional. And I'm joined by 4 professionals today from the STE sectors who are here today to share with us their various career pathways and from various different agencies, starting from Magdalene.
Hi, I'm Magdalene, Senior Engineer from Building and Construction Authority. I'm a mechanical engineer by training. My work in BCA involved 2 key areas. First, the review of regulatory requirements and the approval of regulatory submissions. And second, the OpsTech aspect, where I work on a transformational project that looks at transforming the regulatory process for building works.
Okay, next we have Stephanie.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie from SLA, and I've been at SLA for 2 years, and I'm a senior geospatial specialist. So SLA, besides managing state properties, is also the geospatial agency in Singapore. And my main job scope is actually we're trying to develop an in-house app that aims to collect hyperlocal geospatial data so that we can further enhance our map data. And the app actually uses AI to help automate this process.
Followed by Alan.
Hey, thanks, Yang. So I'm Alan. I'm from HDB. So I guess I'm the oldest around here. So I've been working in HDB for 11 years. So currently I'm the Deputy Director of the Customer Experience and Employee System. My work area covers 3 key areas. Number 1 is the customer-facing websites and application. The second area covers the more employee system, which covers staff intranet, the human resource system. And lastly is a center of excellence teams of user experience design, where we take care of the customer research and customer design of our application. Yeah, thank you.
And lastly, we have Derwei.
Hey, thanks, Yang. Hello, everyone. I'm Derwei. I'm an assistant manager with LTA in the policy and planning group. So I've been with LTA for close to 5 years now. I'm an electrical engineer by training. So previously, I was working in rail-related engineering postings or engineering-related job. Right now, I'm currently in policy and planning, formulating commercial agreements for rail operator and the licenses.
Thank you for sharing, everyone. I think the introduction has been very brief and good. So maybe starting off with Derwei, just want to start a question. I guess when we all graduate and we start our careers, we have a certain end goal in mind. And has it been a very straightforward path for you? Or do you have a lot of twists and turns to get to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks, Yang. So as a young graduate, if you ask me how will my career experience will be, like what I have experienced right now, 5 years on into the job, I would say it's a definite no. Right? LTA is my first job. So as an electrical engineer by training, I aspire, where I just graduated, I aspire to achieve professional engineering, I aspire to do engineering-related work, I aspire to actually improve on my expertise. But moving on to 5 years into my job, actually have been exposed to many different job opportunities. So for my first job posting, actually for a good 2.5 years, I was actually doing rail engineering related. I was actually delivering signaling and platform screen door system for Downtown Line and Thomson East Coast Line. From there, I learned about project management, learned about delivery, learned about design, as well as also understanding the operators and also working with them to ensure that the design developed is able to operate and maintain efficiently. So after the 2.5 years with my project management team, I actually went over to the technical team, where actually I was more involved in the contract preparation, in the evaluation. Actually, I was preparing for the upcoming line, for Cross Southern Line. I was actually preparing the tender, but unfortunately, due to the pandemic, there have been some delays. But also because of this delay, it has actually given us the opportunity to actually study on alternatives, actually to innovate and explore new ways to how to overcoming all those restrictions and also challenges we face in the supply chain and also with our suppliers and industry. And then after a good 2 years in the technical team, I'm right now in the policy and planning group. So right now I'm working closely with the industry, or actually formulating commercial agreements for the rail operator. Yeah, so I would say, if not for my experience in the public service, I would not have experienced such a diverse job opportunity.
Wow, thanks for sharing, Dewey. I think you have really shown how broad the public service can be when it comes to projects. And similar to you, when I started off my first job here in LTA, I also look forward to doing something more technical, something more related to my degree. And I know that, Stephanie, you are also doing something very related to what you have been doing currently now in SLA.
Okay, so for me, my career path has been not just in the public service. So I actually started off after I graduated. I joined a private engineering consulting firm. In my time there, basically, I worked on engineering projects, but using GIS to kind of understand and better analyze the scope of such engineering project. So more specifically, I used to work for the water team. So we would actually use GIS to undertake flood studies or maybe like hydropower studies to basically simulate what it will be like within the engineering project. Yeah. So actually from my experience there, I kind of realized that geospatial is a field where we can actually bring together data sources from many different domains, and I feel like this is something I would like to explore further. And I also think that the area that I wanted to apply this to is basically on how we can actually help build up Singapore's environment itself, which is actually why I transitioned to the public service at SLE.
Yeah, I think it's heartening to know that people coming from the private sector who have skills very relevant as they transit over to the public sector if they wish to have a career, and they shouldn't be afraid to apply to do so. And I heard that, Magdalene, you also have similar private sector experiences as well.
Yeah, I started off in the public sector, and then I went to the private sector, and then back to the public sector. Despite the changes, I think I get to do what I wanted to. When I was in the undergraduate in NTU, I wanted to apply, engineering knowledge in practical situations. So both my time in the private sector, in a construction company, and then in BCA, have given me many opportunities to do so. Public sector was my choice following some years in the private sector. After I observed some inefficiency in the construction process, there was much abortive work, multiple redesigning, and then changes in constructed works. So this led to my mini aspiration of wanting to make a difference and being in a better position to influence the outcome. What I also did not envisage myself doing was OpsTech. Until 4 or 5 years back, with the launch of the construction industry transformation map, there was a push for the construction sector to embrace technology. So that was when, with BCA's support, I took up courses and equipped myself with the relevant knowledge. And finally, here I am in a team co-leading the multi-agency transformation project. So I wanted to say that I'm happy with how my career has progressed. Because I got to do what my mini aspiration was, and like the regulatory work where I look at ventilation and energy efficiency requirements and leading to better building design and better built environment, and then the transformational project where it will lead to less reworks in the construction projects.
I think sustainability is something that we are really working towards right now in terms of public sector. And also, I think it's very inspiring what you have shared, how you have moved from the public sector to the private sector and then back to the public again, just because you saw an inefficiency and you wanted to become the change which you envisioned. So that is something that we all can learn, because I believe that there are still inefficiencies that will have us innovate to make a difference. Maybe can we have Alan share with us?
Yeah, actually, just to share also, HDB is my first job. So I think when I graduated from NUS, from School of Computing, my aspiration was really to create application to make a difference in citizen life and people's lives. So, and HDB is my first application, and I'm lucky to land up with the job. And wow, 11 years just bypass. So I think to echo what Magdalene has mentioned, I think from my perspective, as a public service, I think the job is yet challenging and also fulfilling. Why do I say that? Is because we get to create application and services for our customer, so to make our citizens and resident life better. So I think that is the biggest takeaway I have. And I can say over my 11 years in HDB, right, learning don't stop here. So we get to attend courses, upskills ourselves over the years, especially in my industry or in my role whereby technology is ever changing. Every year, there will be new technology and applications that we can learn from. So, yeah, I envision the career path that I undertake in HDB. Yep.
Wow, thank you all for sharing. I think it has been very insightful in terms of experience. So maybe I'd like to shift the next question over to Magdalene. How have these experiences really shaped you up and built up in terms of competency to really allow you to perform your role efficiently?
Yep. I have gained a lot of mechanical engineering related knowledge and practical experience when I was in the private sector. When I joined BCA, thankfully BCA was very supportive in my personal and professional development. There were many opportunities for me to gain greater competency, greater professionalism. For example, from courses, which can be technical or soft skill related, cross-functional projects, where we work with other groups. We learn from other groups and progress as one BCA, and also work overseas work trips. So, for example, a work trip to LA was one where we went together with industry reps, and we gained insights and benefited from experiencing for ourselves the good environmental sustainability policies and practices there. We visited the regulatory counterparts there, educational institutions such as University of California, Irvine, and then reputable firms in real estate and consultancy services. Yeah. Then we could also attend seminars where we learn from success stories from all over the world. Yeah. So I think it is this belief that BCA has in the staff, and also the willingness to invest in the staff that enabled me to be able to continue to strive in my various aspects of my work. It is this continual learning culture that also motivated me to take on part-time masters at NUS with 50% sponsorship from BCA, even though it was really, really tiring. And despite the busy work schedule, I'm on my last mile of pursuing my professional engineer recognition.
Wow, thanks for sharing, Magdalene. I think I can really agree with you on the point that masters is very tiring, because I've also been sponsored and been fortunate enough to do my masters overseas. And I'm also currently pursuing my professional engineering certification. And I believe that the public sector really enriches your experience overall. And I'm sure that they have done so for you as well, Stephanie.
Yeah, I really resonate with what Magdalene has said about the public sector really investing in their people. So my experience is that the public sector is very forward-thinking, and they do actually embrace a lot of new technologies. So my project in particular, we actually try to harness the use of AI and machine learning, but not only that, also cloud computing services. So for me, my career has been, actually it's quite a big shift between what I've been doing from the private sector to the public sector, in the sense where in the private sector, I still dealt with geospatial data, but more on an analytics perspective. But transition to my role now in the public sector, where I'm actually doing application development. So it's actually a very new field, but my bosses and managers have all been very supportive in basically giving us opportunities to upskill ourselves and send us for training courses so that we can better understand all these new technologies. So even though I feel that the learning curve can be quite steep at times, I really do appreciate how much emphasis the public sector actually puts on training the staff to be able to basically
address these
challenges,
right?
Yeah.
I think you really brought up some good points, because as we move on, our challenges will be very different from how our predecessors faced, and it's important to keep our skills very relevant in today's world. I think learning through a lot about apps is something that will become more prevalent in future, And I'm sure Alan has something to share when it comes to apps because
That's right.
he has.
So when I first joined HDB, I was quite amazed by the breadth of domain areas that HDB covers, ranging from design and building of flats to buying and selling of flats, and even car parks. And do you know that HDB is one of the biggest car park operator in Singapore itself? So I have the opportunity to embark on different projects throughout my 11 year in HDB. So ranging from maintenance application to even now doing websites and mobile application. So one of the most memorable experience I have was to embark on this project called Integrated Estate Management System. So similar to what Madeline have shared, I have the opportunity to kickstart the project by going to US as a study trip to learn about how counterparts in US implement things like IoT, Internet of Things, applying video analytics into our shopping complex or even our HDB flats, and to even AI, as what Stephanie had mentioned, machine learning, natural language processing into our application. So every project I undertake in HDB allows me to learn new skills and apply them to my work areas.
I think you are really working with cutting edge technology, and that's something that I believe we all have a chance to work on. And maybe we'll have Delwei share with us.
So maybe I just add on to what Alan has shared. So I think in LTA I have the opportunity to also go overseas. One of the most memorable job experience for me was actually working on Thomson East Coast Line platform screen door project. So this is where I had the opportunity to went to China to do factory acceptance tests. Right, as a young engineer, right, I have to make arrangements to go to China, and I have to make sure that the quality control for the manufacturing was on point. Right, because we need to make sure that from production all the way to delivery, there will be no lapse in terms of quality. But through this overseas exposure, we also have the opportunity to actually learn from our counterparts. We actually have an exchange of ideas, learn good international practices that they do in their manufacturing, quality control, even like coding and building, how they build their system up. So with all this experience, right, we actually bring back and then we actually share with our Singapore colleagues, share how we can better incorporate in our design, etc. So I say that was one of my most memorable job experience. Another memorable part about this job experience also on the collaborative culture that I think a few of my panelists touched on. So I still remember as a young engineer, I had to arrange my first meeting. My first meeting, where I entered the meeting room, there were 20 to 30 people. I was quite shocked. It wasn't that level of skill that I have actually arranged for meetings in the way I was back in universities. So during the meeting, I get to meet many people from different divisions. Some of them they came from the design team, some of them came from the safety team, some of them came from the operation and maintenance team. So in our line of work, a lot of the work that is done is actually behind the scene. So that we have a lot of discussions, have a lot of iterations to how to actually ensure that the system we deliver are safe and efficient. So I would say actually my career experience in LTA actually allowed me to build this collaborative spirit and culture, and how to actually balance all these conflicting interests so that we can deliver the final good product for Singaporeans.
What you pointed out about holding big meetings is very prevalent in public sector because you work with so many different stakeholders. And with COVID-19 and all the Internet of Technology stuff, it's going to become even bigger as we involve more people in our video conferences. So thanks again for sharing your experiences. I'm pretty sure they've all shaped you up in certain different ways to allow you to achieve your different roles. But can we hear more on interesting projects that you all have done? I heard, Magdalene, you have worked on Connectx, which is a very interesting project which brings different stakeholders together. So maybe you want to share with us a bit more on that?
Yeah, can't wait to share about Connectx. I mentioned it a few times very briefly earlier. Yeah, so involving 11 agencies, Connectx is conceived as the future ecosystem of regulatory approvals. It looks at redesigning the regulatory process by leveraging on technology, such as building information modeling and automation. It is the new operating model that emphasizes coordination and collaboration, be it in project teams or amongst agencies. Yep. So it would lead to productive workflows and also better upfront design and hence less wastage due to reworks. To arrive at optimal solution, Connectx is developed through co-creation, joint solutioning with stakeholders. So to me, it is a very enriching and fulfilling experience working closely with so many agencies and progressive industry players. It was motivating for me to see agencies and industry coming together to reach a consensus on various aspects of Connectx through several intensive discussions. And more importantly, we putting our heads, hands, and legs together to work towards a common goal, which is the transformation of the construction sector.
Wow, thanks for sharing, Magdalene. I think it's very inspiring to know that you are working on such technology, and I can't wait to see how this can really help BCA excel in what they do. So speaking of cutting edge technology, Stephanie, I also heard that you're working on an app which will help us the public have a better idea of the areas around them, especially indoors.
Yeah, so the app that I'm working on now is a geospatial data collection application. And actually what we're trying to do is collect hyperlocal data, because currently the data that we have, the geospatial data at least, is more not as granular as we would like it to be. So basically you can have like your building footprints, but you may not know actually what's inside the buildings. So this is one area that we are trying to address with our application itself. So what we term is the hyperlocal data collection. So this can range from data such as like your shop fronts, where your escalators are, where your staircase are, where your lifts are, or also down to like maybe other street furnitures like fire hydrants or where the AED equipment are. But for our app itself, we are currently focusing more on the doorway part, which is the first few that I've mentioned, which is like where your shop fronts are, your building entrances are, the lifts and staircase and escalators, as we term this as transition points. And we feel like the collection of such data could actually help in probably our logistics services, or even to like other industry players. So like SLA actually has signed some MOUs with real estate agencies because they do feel there's quite a lot of value in gaining this data that they'll be then able to share with their own customers and also with the public itself. Yeah, so the app, actually we harness the use of AI and ML technologies to kind of try to help us basically automate the process of such data collection. So we are able to actually use photographs to basically extract the information that may be important and relevant to us. So we can actually use photographs to categorize whether this is a shop front, whether this is a lift or staircase, and also extract out maybe text in the image to basically automate the process of such data collection.
Yeah, I think I can't wait to use such an app where I don't have to use a mall directory anymore. I can basically just find my way into the building and the shop which I'm looking for. That's certainly very helpful, not just for me, but for everyone else. And speaking of other projects, I heard Derwei, you are also you worked on a platform screen door project.
Correct, yeah.
And that was one of your projects that you started off with and you saw it all the way through the end. Would you like to share with us more on this project?
Sure. Thanks, Yang. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was working on the platform screen door for the Thomson East Coast Line Stage 1. So actually, just to add on what Magdalene has mentioned on the Connectx app, actually, LTA also uses it because we do have some building of the platform screen door. So one of my suppliers, we actually use this app or this co-creation app to actually submit their submissions, to coordinate with the BCA on getting the permits to actually carry out the construction work. So there's a lot of collaborative culture between the different agencies. So previously when I was working on the platform screen door project, it was one of the most memorable projects that I've done because I've seen it through from the design right until all the way to where I hand over to the operator for operation and maintenance. So during the design phase, I work with many stakeholders from specialists, from operator and maintenance side, to actually formulate a design right through the iterations to ensure that the design is safe and efficient for operation and maintenance. So I still remember what my boss had shared with me, this quote. He was sharing that actually if you get the design right from the start, you have less problems downstream in your project phase. So I really love this quote because it really resonates with me because I see through this whole project phase. So as I actually formulate and finalize the design, we move on to the manufacturing and procurement portion. So this manufacturing and procurement function is actually very vital because we actually have to enforce quality, right? Enforce that the international standards of the delivery and also manufacturing has been enforced for our suppliers before shipping over to Singapore for installation and commissioning. And then lastly, one of the most challenging period for this project is called the commissioning phase, where I actually have to support commissioning work. I actually work with a lot of our engineers, work with our suppliers to actually commission this system. So I say actually the initial phase of this commissioning system, there are a lot of teething issues. It was extremely challenging. But what I take heart is actually that the process of how we actually overcome all these challenges. Because like after we face an issue, when we are commissioning, we came together, right? We re-evaluate our design, re-evaluate what we have done wrong. We try out the process. So there were a lot of processes back and forth, before we finally able to successfully commission this Thomson East Coast Line platform screen door out to the commuters for their usage. So I say this is one of the most memorable job experience for me, because I really learned a lot from the design up to the operation and maintenance phase.
I think the point you made about designing for operation and maintenance really resonated with me as well as an electrical design engineer in LTA, because we always design and build for operation and maintenance. And this is so that our various stakeholders, not just the commuters, but the people who maintain and operate the system, will have an easier time as well. It all starts from design. And speaking of design, I know, Alan, you designed a lot of apps, probably a lot of apps in 11 years. What is the most memorable project that you had?
So I think the key things that I'm working on now is also the design of our website and mobile application. So I'll just take the current project I'm working on. So we are looking at revamping our website and mobile application. So traditionally, when I first joined HDB, the methodology that I applied was waterfall. And then we just take requirement from our product owners or our administrator, and then we just design and develop them, and then test and then validate. But now the methodology has changed, as what Teo has mentioned. Design becomes a key element, and I would say research and design is a key element where we apply design thinking and user experience design into our projects. So that was one of the biggest takeaway that I have, and it really resonated with me, and these are the skill set that I learned so far. On the second point is that, as I earlier shared, and I think the panelists have shared, that technology is ever growing. So I think one of the mobile app project that we embark on is to introduce augmented reality into the mobile app. I think with the pandemic situation now, traditionally residents comes to our exhibitions to look at HIP items or EASE item to be installed onto their flat itself. So we use technology to augmented reality into our application so that customers do not need to, or residents do not need to come to our exhibition, but can use the mobile app at their home. And then they can use the mobile app to use augmented reality to superimpose HIP items like grab bars, even ramps into their flat, and see how these new items help them in their daily life. So these are, as I said earlier, these are some of the very interesting and fulfilling projects that I undertake that I'm happy that I implement, and the residents and the customer like it.
Personally, I can't wait to use these augmented reality apps with my future new home. And I think we all have shared very diverse experiences. And I believe the public sector is really a place where we can fulfill many different passions and aspirations, as you all have shared here. Can we get Alan to share with us any parting advice for the guests who are watching?
I think it's a bit cliche, but it actually boils down to 3 letters, A, B, and C. So first I will share is the agile mindset for A. So I think currently, in the industry or even in the whole world itself, change is a new norm, especially with the pandemic. So being agile, I think it's important in our day-to-day work and also in our personal life, and so that we can continue on the things and build on the things that we're working on now. Second would be B for bold. I think being bold, as earlier mentioned, I think Madeline has mentioned about inefficiency in some of our day-to-day work. So I think as a public officers, being bold in applying innovation, changing inefficiencies is also an important mindset. Of course, last but not least, collaborative. I think the panelists have shared. We collaborate not just within the agencies, but cross-agency as well. And I think we have seen more, even engaging business partner and industry in terms of collaboration. So I think these are some of the 3 key mindsets I would like to share.
Well, thanks for sharing, Alan. I think it's important to be bold and to really be the change that we want to see going forward, because of all the different challenges we will be about to face as we incorporate more of this cutting-edge technology into our public service. And maybe we have Wei share with us any parting advice?
Okay, maybe I will not share about my career advice, but I just share some of my key takeaways from my career experience in LTA or in public service. So maybe 3 key takeaways. The first is dare to try. So in public service, I think like what Alan mentioned, I think things are always changing. The world that we are looking right now is very different from what we are looking many years ago. We are faced with pandemic, there are challenges due to the pandemic, but there are also exciting changes like big data, data analytics, etc. So with all these changes, there comes challenges also like cybersecurity, etc. So we must always adopt this dare to try spirit in the course of our work. Right? We always try to improve on what we are doing, try to benefit what we're doing. Like just now I mentioned about design, how can we incorporate such like technologies to innovate and to better serve the commuters or even to help our operators in operation and maintenance. So I feel that this is one of the key takeaways, which is dare to try. And then secondly is on empathy. So just now I think we touched a bit about the collaborative culture. So I feel that being a public servant, you always must have empathy because we work with many stakeholders. We need to empathize with them, with their understanding on empathize with them on what are their needs, what are their goals, what are their interests, right? So example, in terms of commuters, what are their feedback? Can we incorporate their feedback into our design, right? And what about feedback from the operators, right? Are they able to carry out their job efficiently? And also empathize with some of our colleagues who are doing design and safety. How do we balance all of these conflicting interests and then to deliver a final product? So I feel that empathy is very crucial in the work that we do, right? Because we have to collaborate with many stakeholders, internal within public service and also external in the industry. And the last part about one key takeaway is about leadership. Because I feel that working in public service, it really allows you to hone your leadership skills. A lot of the work that we do is really behind the scenes. I think the public may not be aware of what we actually doing, but actually we go through a lot of iterations. We have to like do what is correct, right? Instead of like what is being popular in some of the decisions that we made. Example, like in the LTA course of work, we have to have early closure of our lines, but that is to ensure safety for operators when they're carrying out their maintenance, and also ensure efficiency. So we have to balance a lot of all these needs. So I think in the course of our work, I think leadership skills is very important as a public servant. So I think that are like some of my key takeaways from my career experience in the public service. So maybe Stephanie would like to share.
So I guess my key takeaways, they do also resonate with what Wei and Alan have shared so far. So for me, I think it's very important to be open and willing to learn and also absorb new ideas. So I think this also plays into the not just improving your own skills, like from your technical skills or your soft skills, but also be open to collaboration, be open to what other people and other agencies have to say, because only in this way then we are able to understand from different perspectives and be able to build a better product or project. Yeah. And I think the other takeaway that I have is that we always need to be persevering in what we do. So we do really need to have a resilience to try new ideas and also to keep iterating on projects or solutions that we may actually embark on. Yeah, so I think because the public sector actually brings together many agencies, so there's a lot of opinions sometimes, so it can take sometimes quite a lot of time to basically suss out what's important for everyone. So we do need to have such a persevering spirit to be able to deliver a good project that will ultimately benefit the public. Yeah.
Wow, thanks for that, Stephanie. I think that is very insightful. But maybe Magdalene, do you want to share any parting advice?
Okay, I would like to share maybe 2 attitudes. One, first is the desire to make a difference with an open mind. That was my mini aspiration that brought me from the private sector back to the public sector. Taking on an active role in new and existing opportunities which may involve new skills. I get a sense of satisfaction when I see improvements in regulatory process and building design. So for someone with such desire and really looking for such opportunities, there are a lot of projects and initiatives that agencies, including BCA, is working on and will be working on. Next is the never die attitude. Stephanie shared about perseverance earlier. Yeah, so mine is the never die attitude. It's really, when you encounter with challenges, take heart and emerge stronger as an individual and as a team. No satisfying work is easy, and the hard truth that I experienced is not all proposals will be welcomed by the industry when we consulted them. So we take challenges and feedback in stride, and then we revise our approach. And in the end, we achieve better outcomes, and we are a stronger team now. So for someone who has such attitudes and like the working environment that I've described, I think you have found the right place. Visit our virtual booths, visit our agency's website.
Okay, thank you everyone for sharing today. I think it's been very insightful, not just for myself, but everyone else who's watching today and waiting to apply. And as we come to the last segment of the STE Virtual Career Fair, we'll now proceed to the Fireside Sessions, where you get to learn more on their job, and you can ask them any questions that you have regarding their projects and what they've shared previously. And you can do so by using the sessions icon on the left-hand side of the screen to access the various breakout rooms. And the time is all yours. Take it away.